Hey everyone, welcome back to Darren Tumbles. Today I'm going to be teaching you the technique Simone Biles uses in her floor routine. Let's get into it. Her first pass in her floor routine is round off back handspring triple double. Obviously we're starting with an aggressive run, trying to get all that momentum pushing forward. When she goes into that hurdle, notice her arms and her right knee are pulling herself forward. So reaching very far into that round off, and notice how her left hand turns back towards her right hand. That's going to make sure that she's tumbling nice and straight out of that round off. Of course, kicking as hard as she can. Once both hands are on the ground, she's immediately blocking, which just means she's pushing through her shoulders and her wrists to get her hands off of the ground. Then she's snapping her legs, trying to get her feet in front of her, which we see there. And while she's snapping her feet in front of her, her arms are coming up by her ears. And since her feet were in front of her, that helps that back handspring travel backward. We want the round off back handspring to be as long as possible to generate more power for the end skill. So in the back handspring, she's holding a nice tight arch position, which means she's just lifting her hips up and not really bending her back a whole lot. That's a pretty common mistake I see in back handsprings, is people arching their back way too much. Then as she goes through the handstand in the back handspring, she does a very good job of keeping her shoulders open and not closing her armpits at all. Out of the back handspring, she's leaving her feet behind her, which allows her to transfer all that backward momentum into upward momentum now. So because she hits that angle, she's able to stand straight up into the triple double. Her arms are above her hips, are above her feet. That's the angle we want to see. That's what's going to get her the most height to be able to do the triple double. Right after she stands up, she starts pulling her right side of her body over the left side to initiate that twist. Of course, having to be very aggressive about that since she needs to complete 3 twists. So basically, she's rolling that side of her body over as fast as possible. And she does a great job because by the time she finishes 1 flip, she's already finished 2 twists. So all she has to do after that is just a tuck full. 3/4 of the way through the skill, she's spotting the floor, so she knows exactly where she's going to land, where to put her feet, and that's going to give her the best chance of sticking the skill. As she lands, she's trying to absorb first by landing on the balls of her feet and then bending through her knees. In this specific tumbling pass, she had just a little too much power, so she over-rotated and saved it by stepping back. Simone does 4 round off back handsprings in this routine, so we're not going to go through the same steps every time. You can just assume that for every round off back handspring she does, she's using that same technique we just covered. Okay, her second tumbling pass is front full, step out, round off back handspring, double double. As she's punching into the front full, notice how her feet are just a little bit in front of her body. That's again to transfer that forward momentum from running into upward momentum for the front full. So that angle is super important. Of course, her arms are up to help her punch into that front full. Her body gets about horizontal with the floor before she initiates that twist. In gymnastics, you never want to twist right off the ground. You have to initiate the flip first before twisting, which she does a great job of here. After she passes horizontal, she starts pulling that right side of her body over to her left side. And now she has to think about over-rotating this front full because she needs to come out of this skill in a lunge. And for a good lunge, you need one of your legs to land behind you. And because it lands behind her, she's able to then push off of it to go forward. We've already covered her amazing technique in round off back handsprings. So then for the double double, she's setting straight up with her eyes forward, definitely not throwing her head back. If she did, then her skill would travel backward and not up. And you'll notice how her arms just fly off of the ground straight up to the ceiling. As she's setting into this double double, her hips are squeezing and lifting up to the ceiling. Basically everything in her body, her arms, her hips are lifting up into this skill before she initiates the twist. So then to start this twist, she's wrapping her arms into her center and bringing her right side of her body again over the left side. And then holding a very tight tuck position, legs squeezed together, knees bent 90 degrees, hips bent at 90 degrees, arms are staying into the chest super tight. As she's about 3/4 of the way through the skill is when she uses her eyes to spot the floor and her arms open up from that tuck position. She's trying to see the floor as she lands, again absorbing through her ankles and her knees. And that is her second pass. Moving on, her third pass is actually named after her. It's the round off back handspring double layout with a half twist at the end of the double layout. So coming out of her round off back handspring, arms are lifting up, but what's interesting about double layout skills is her chest actually arches back as quick as possible because she needs to get flipping quickly. As she completes the first layout, she's staying in that tight arch position, but the arms come down by her side. And then for the second layout in this flip, she brings her right arm into her chest. And because she's asymmetrical right there, that's gonna cause her body to twist in the air. She's staying stretched out through her hips, knees, ankles, everything. And what's really difficult about this skill is it's a blind landing, so she can't spot the floor like we said in the first two skills. So this skill is actually a lot about feel, and I'm sure she's done a ton of repetitions on this skill and just at this point knows exactly where she's at in the air while she does it. And then last but not least, her final tumbling pass is round off back handspring double layout. Since we have a good view, we'll just quickly go over some of the really important things in this tumbling pass. That long hurdle, strong kick to the round off, blocking off of her hands, snapping her feet in front of her, long back handspring in a tight arch position, popping off her hands in the back handspring, then leaving her feet behind her, then standing up with her arms. But since it's a double layout, she needs to get her chest pointed backwards as quickly as possible to make sure she's flipping quick enough. And then from there, she's basically just holding that tight arch position. Notice how it's not so much of a back bend, but she's just squeezing her glutes and lifting her hips up. That's the tight arch position. And then she just needs to hold that. Her arms come down by her side for the second flip, holding the same position. And at the very end, it pikes down just a little bit, meaning she bends at her hips. When she landed, her chest was down just a little bit more than we'd probably like to see, but she was able to absorb that landing and kind of pull it off as a stick. So a very amazing floor routine. Obviously, Simone has some of the best technique in the world, so it's fun to analyze her tumbling and just see all of those little details that she does every single time she flips. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, or subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.